What's good, everybody? It's the Clown with Cab Show. What a week 5 for college football. Shout out to my Notre Dame Fighting Irish. The dream is still alive. It has not died. They still have an opportunity to make it to the college football playoff. I mean, what a game it was. And shout out to Sam Hartman. Look, it was 4th and 16 with the game on the line, and really everything boiled down to that play. And Sam Hartman scrambled out to the right and said, you know what? I'm not just going to throw the ball down the field. I'm going to run it for 17 yards, and that's what Sam Hartman did. And literally, Notre Dame's playoff hopes were on the line on that single play alone. I mean, it was crazy that we even got it to 4th and 16. It should have been really the third down we should have completed, and the second down we just messed up. Just some miscues, and really Notre Dame did not play a great game. Even head coach Marcus Freeman came out and said too many false starts, too many offside penalties, just a lot of dumb stuff that Notre Dame should have that corrected, especially after the weekend before the Ohio State game. We literally gave that game away. We should have won that game, absolutely. But for Notre Dame to come back the way they did, in the way, Sam Hartman battled, and really Estime was the difference maker. And I think Estime in the run game and the offensive line for Notre Dame is really the difference maker moving forward. I mean, if they win out, they definitely have an opportunity to get into the college football playoff. I think they'll probably get like a 4 seed, really. I think even if they win out, obviously, we need Ohio State to do some things as well to win out, which I do think they will. The hardest game is Penn State. But I just think overall, looking at Notre Dame and realizing they are legit, they do have the talent. They were down 3 receivers this game. So really, if Notre Dame had everybody going, we really should have really blew Duke out of the water. Like that's just how it is. But, on the road ACC game, and Notre Dame has the most ACC wins in a row, which is 30, broke Florida State. I think Florida State was 29. Maybe my numbers are a little off, but still, that is crazy. And Notre Dame's not even in the ACC. So that makes it even more exciting. But, shout out to Duke. I mean, Riley Leonard, their starting quarterback, he played a heck of a game. I mean, they kept showing his mother, and I'm thinking, dude, why? You know what I'm saying? It's just too over the top. It's just college. It's good for the moment. But, we knew Duke was never going to win this game. We know Duke was never going to make it to the college football playoff. That was just the reality. This is football, not basketball here. I understand Duke's on the map, football, but at the end of the day, I think Duke, no, they're not going to make it to the college football playoff. But for Notre Dame's sake, shout out to, the role players as well. Rico Flores, he's coming on a true freshman, and I think he's going to see more reps in that the receiver's spot. But I just think overall for Notre Dame, man, it was just a battle, and they were battle tested here. And this was the game, that 4th and 16 play with Sam Hartman. Everything was on the line for Notre Dame. If they don't get that play, Notre Dame has 2 losses, and they're definitely not making it to the college football playoff. But now they're 10th overall. They were 9th a couple weeks ago, but we gave the game away to Ohio State, literally. But I think for Notre Dame, we went out. We beat USC. Washington, they're going to lose to Oregon. They're going to be out of the top 10. There's some, easy cupcake teams. Michigan will lose to Ohio State at the end of the year in the big house. I just think Michigan, I'm looking at Michigan Wolverines and realize, wow, they really have a cake schedule. Literally, dude. They're playing easy teams, and it's just well, the hardest game is Ohio State. What's their weakest game? I mean, they play Northwestern. They play Illinois. They just play a bunch of soft Big Ten teams that are in the back half of the Big Ten. Even Michigan State this year isn't too great. It's literally Penn State and Ohio State this year. And I understand everybody's on Michigan. Coach Harbaugh's a great coach. They're number 2 seed. But, from what I've experienced from Michigan the past couple years is they make it to the big game in the college football playoff and they get blown out. I mean, they lost to TCU last year. Dude. And then the year before, they lost to Georgia. At halftime, it was 27-3. It was just obviously the talent-wise is completely way different from that. And I just think Michigan hasn't been battle tested this year, and if Michigan loses the last game of the year against Ohio State, they should be out of it, dude. Notre Dame should get in that 3rd or 4th seed. And I think the committee would agree. I mean, we have the athletes this year, and really, like I said, we should have beat the Ohio State Buckeyes. We really should have. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. We learned from our mistakes, and that's why I love Coach Marcus Freeman. I think he's a great leader. I think players want to play for him, and I think the recruits for Notre Dame future-wise is going to be off the charts. Off the charts, so I cannot wait, man. So shout out to Notre Dame, man. Hey, shout out to Sam Hartman. We battled back. Now we're at Louisville, who is another undefeated team. It's crazy. I mean, we look at Notre Dame's schedule and say, oh, it's not that tough, really. I mean, we keep playing undefeated teams every single week. I mean, we played Ohio State. They were undefeated. We fumbled that bag. Okay, Duke, they were undefeated. We went through them. Louisville, they're undefeated. We're going to go through them. USC's coming in 2 weeks. We're going to run through them. They're undefeated, too. Like, it's undefeated teams after undefeated teams. So I just think I love Notre Dame. I love where they're at right now. And I think they're going to run it. If they win out in a good way, they'll be the 4th seed coming into the college football playoff. I cannot wait, man. I still believe in Notre Dame. I still have that dream. The dream isn't dead. The dream never dies. I'm telling you guys right now, the dream never freaking dies. Take off Notre Dame. Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. Take off, Andy. We are going to the college football playoff this year. Mark my words. I cannot wait. What a huge win by Notre Dame. And then we got Penn State versus Northwestern. Penn State, it was tied up at halftime, but they pulled away 41-13, and it was all Penn State here. Look, Penn State, I think, is one of the best teams, them and Ohio State in the Big Ten. Those two teams are going to match up later this year. I can't wait to see what happens there. That's going to be great, but shout out to Penn State. And then we got USC versus Colorado. USC with the dub, and really they were ahead most of the game, and I think USC kind of let off the gas. That's why the final score is 41-48. But Caleb Williams, 6 touchdowns, only 1 pick. And then Sanders had 4 touchdowns. I mean, that's crazy. Obviously, USC was 21.5-point favorites. That did not cover. But, go USC money line. Definitely hit. And Caleb Williams, like I said, first-round draft pick next year in 2024. He's going to be the guy. And I think, for him, if I'm in his shoes, dude, I'm 100% going to the NFL next year. Like he wants to make NIL deals, and, they're probably getting interest off you. They're making money off you. Go to the big leagues. And I think for Caleb Williams, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, so he's definitely going to do that. But USC, again, they're undefeated this year. They're ranked 9th. But, right now, the rankings are still kind of irrelevant to me. They really are. It's just we're still in the middle of the season right now. There's a lot of football to be played. So, the rankings, we look at Georgia, they're number 1. If Georgia only won by 7 this weekend. So, I think Georgia's really on upset alert. They host Kentucky next weekend. Kentucky's a legit team. I think Georgia this year just isn't the same team. I mean, they lost so many players to go to the NFL in the past 2 years. It's ridiculous. So I think Georgia eventually is going to get knocked off, and they're not going to be in it. I really don't see it happening. And yes, I get it. Kirby Smart, back-to-back national championships is great and all, but I just don't see Georgia going that far. I really don't. I see him losing a game or two, and that's it for Georgia. I'm sorry, Georgia Bulldog fans, but they are going to go down eventually. I don't see them winning out. I just don't. I see Georgia losing eventually. So, but, hey, shout to USC. Like I said, Caleb Williams is that guy. He's going to win Heisman this year. In USC, they play Notre Dame in a couple weeks. I cannot wait for that. So, shout out to USC. And Colorado, Coach Primetime, heck of a coach. It's going to take some development, a couple years until Colorado gets really in the college football playoff conversation. Obviously this year, the first, 3 games, everybody was high on tight. Now they just got blown out by Oregon and lost to USC. So definitely a humbling experience, but Colorado will be back. You have Primetime there. Primetime can turn anything over and just make it great. So that's what he does. So shout out to Colorado. Even though they lost, they are still going to win in the long run. I'm telling you right now. Shout out to UFC and Caleb Williams getting the job done. And then we got Florida versus Kentucky. This was another easy pick for me. I picked Kentucky in this matchup, and they did, and it was their running game. Ray Davis, he was the difference maker. 280 yards rushing and 3 tutties. I mean, dude, Kentucky ran all over Florida. And the way Kentucky's playing right now, they're going to give a run for the money with Georgia next week. And I'm telling you, that game is going to be crazy. It's going to be epic. And I'd love to see Kentucky with the upset. I really would. That's just going to help Notre Dame. All these teams in the top 10 are eventually, some of them are going to lose. and I cannot wait. I just want to see Notre Dame squeak into that 4th or 3rd seed. I just can't wait. But shout out Kentucky getting the job done. And then we got Georgia versus Auburn. Like I said, Georgia only won by 7. This was really a squeak out victory here. And we look at Carson Beck, their starting quarterback. He had 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Doesn't really look that great to me. He looks like a good quarterback. If I were to compare him, it would look like kind of like a Mac Jones. I mean, he's in New England now. He's terrible. Mac Jones is just terrible, dude. He really is. But, Brock Bowers, the tight end, he'll be in the NFL one day. 157 yards receiving and a touchdown for Georgia. And like I said, this game was down to the wire. And really, Auburn had their moments where they could have won this game, which is crazy, right? We're talking about the number 1 pound-for-pound team in Georgia getting exploited. So I can't wait till Georgia loses. I really can't. But hats off to the Dogs. They got the dub, and they did not cover the 14.5. So if you went money line, you hit. But if you didn't, you lost. But shout out to the Georgia Bulldogs. And then we got Michigan versus Nebraska. Michigan, 18-point favorites. They won. Like I said, Michigan has a cupcake schedule this year. I mean, it's just like year in and year out with Michigan right now. It's been the same for the past 5 to 10 years. Like, you guys have an okay schedule, and then you guys make it to the big game and you lose. Like, that's Michigan Wolverines for you the past couple years. Am I wrong or am I right? Like, let's be honest here. Like, it's just embarrassing for the Big Ten and just to represent the Big Ten and get blown out. Even the Georgia game in the playoff, like, they were losing, dude. They got killed in the first half alone. So there was definitely an experience gap there. Definitely a talent-wise, but I just don't see Michigan doing it. I mean, yeah, they have Blake Corum. He'll probably be a first-round draft pick running back, but I just don't see him, man. I'm not confident in Michigan. I mean, when you're playing, low Division I schools and you're over here the number 2 team in the country, what have you proven? You haven't beat any SEC schools. You haven't beat any top 10 Big Ten schools. Like, what are we saying here? Why is Michigan number 2 right now? That's why I said the top 10 rankings right now are irrelevant. It doesn't mean anything till the end of the year, till about 2 games left of the regular season in college football. Because other than that, it doesn't matter right now. It really doesn't. A lot can change, but shout out to Harbaugh and Michigan. They get the job done against another cupcake team. And then we got Kansas versus Texas. Kansas was 4-0. They lost. They got whopped. And shout out to Texas, man. They're probably the most established team right now in college football, which to me, for the eye test, Texas should be number 2 overall. I don't know how Michigan is number 2 and Texas is number 3. There's no reason for that. Texas should be number 2, and then once Georgia loses, Texas will be the number 1 team in the country. I mean, that's all great for college football. Not just college football, just football in general. I mean, football, they breathe it down in Texas, dude. They breathe it, they eat it, dude, every single day. So that's great for football, for Texas to be on the mountaintop right now. And then Quinn Ewers, their starting quarterback, he had 325 yards, a touchdown. He did have a pick in the first half. And then Jonathan Brooks was the difference, the run game, 218 yards rushing and 2 tutties. And it was all Texas here. They ran through it, but next week, Texas and Oklahoma play. That's going to be another epic matchup. But I could see Texas winning out here. I could see Texas winning out, going undefeated, and really being the number 1 team overall in the country by the end, before the college football playoff comes. I really do. I see Texas winning it out and being really the only undefeated team in the college football playoff this year. I could see that happening. I really can. But shout out to the Texas Longhorns. And then we got LSU Tigers versus Ole Miss. I picked LSU with really, they weren't upset. They were favored by 2.5. I thought Brian Kelly, everybody was going to be ready. They had Jaden Daniels, who threw for over 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, but it wasn't enough. Ole Miss won 49-55, and I'm looking at head coach Brian Kelly and going, wow, you guys got 55 points on you, on your defense. That's sad. I think Brian Kelly's going to be there for another year or 2, but I could see LSU really firing Brian Kelly eventually. I mean, you already lost 2 games. LSU's out of the college football playoff already, and this is week 5. Like, dude, that's it. I really lost a lot of respect for Brian Kelly, the way he left Notre Dame, just the way he did it, just really snakish-like. It's just, just karma buying him right now. Look at Notre Dame. We're in the top 10. We're going to be competing for the college football playoff, whereas LSU and head coach Brian Kelly, you guys are on the outside looking in. You will not make it to the college football playoff this year with 2 losses. Heck no, I don't care if you beat Bama this year and win out. You will not do it. So LSU's out. Shout out to Old Miss and Lane Kiffin, man, getting a huge win here. I know Lane Kiffin was happy. It is what it is. Jackson Dart, their starting quarterback for Old Miss, he had 4 touchdowns, and he was really the game changer here. Him, and obviously, LSU's defense just did not look good at all, dude. That's not the LSU defense that we're used to seeing back then, right? With Joe Burrow back in 2019. A just completely different team right now. And I'm looking at Brian Kelly and going, hey, what's next? Like, are you guys going to continue to lose? Brian Kelly's going to get fired eventually. I can see that happening. But shout out to Ole Miss getting the upset win, even though I saw the LSU Tigers winning this game. And then we got Oregon versus Stanford. Oregon definitely won this game. Like I said, Oregon, man, they're another powerhouse team. And they're undefeated right now. And Bo Nix, a veteran quarterback, transfer from Auburn. He had 4 touchdowns. Troy Franklin, 2 touchdowns, 117 yards receiving for Oregon. And then Oregon's running back, Bucky Irving, he had 88 yards rushing and a touchdown. It was all Oregon. We know Oregon's a great offensive team, absolutely. But defense wins championships. My thing is Oregon hasn't yet been tested like that yet on defense. So I can't wait. They're going to play Washington next week. I think Oregon's going to run through Washington. I really do. But, hey, big win by the Oregon Ducks. And speaking of Washington, they beat Arizona. And a lot of people are happy about this, but they only won by 7, 31-24. And they were 18.5-point favorites. So the committee's basically telling you 18.5, hey, they should blow these guys out. They only won by a touchdown here. Like, that's sad, really. I'm looking at Washington and realizing, hey, you guys will not make it to the college football playoff. I understand you have a great quarterback in Michael Penix Jr. He used to play at IU. He had a good game. He had 360 yards passing. But, Dylan Johnson, their running back, was the difference maker. 91 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns against Arizona. But Washington, like I said, dude, we're talking about the Pac-12 here. They're just one of another weak conferences in college football. I would say the SEC's number 1, and really the Big Ten or ACC's number 2. And then Pac-12's in the back, dude. They're in the back, but, Washington, they're going to lose. They're going to lose to Oregon. I can't wait. That's another top 10 team out of the top 10. So, big win by Washington, but you only won by 7, so not really proving much. And then we got Bama versus Mississippi State. It was all Bama. They covered the 14.5. They waxed them. Jalen Milroe, 2 rushing touchdowns for Bama. And this was all Bama here. To bet against Bama just because they lost one time against Texas, who's probably the best college football team right now in America today. But, it's what it is. Everybody wants to see Bama lose because Nick Saban, a great legendary coach, national championship after national championship, yet they still want to minimize him. I just think it's funny, but roll Tide, roll. And then we got Iowa State versus Oklahoma. Oklahoma won. This was another easy game for Oklahoma. Dylan, their starting quarterback, he balled out with 3 touchdowns and 1 pick. Dylan Gabriel, I mean, this guy's a big quarterback, and he's going to be tested next week versus Texas, and I can't wait for that matchup. Just a classic rivalry in college football, Oklahoma, Texas. You got to freaking love it. It's amazing. But right now, my pound-for-pound number 1 team is definitely Texas. They are. I look at Georgia and realizing, hey, they do have some holes in their defense. In their quarterback, I don't fully trust overall. I just don't. But honestly, my Notre Dame Fighting Irish, what a freaking win this weekend. I was really about to get really angry and be like, how are we going to lose to Duke at Duke? There's no reason for this. But you know what? We battle back. And shout out to Sam Hartman and Audric Estime. They were the difference makers in this game. And obviously the defense was a huge difference maker. Our defensive line to put pressure on Riley Leonard was a huge X factor in this game as well. So shout out to the defense, man. We've been holding teams, dude. We hold Ohio State to 17. We really should have held them to 10 points. That Ohio State game. And then just Notre Dame, man, I'm telling you, Marcus Freeman, he's a defensive guy. He played at Ohio State, played linebacker. He just knows the system. He was a defensive coordinator for Notre Dame, I think, back in 2021. So he knows the system right now. And I think right now, Notre Dame, if they continue to win on the road, beat Louisville next weekend in an easy fashion. Then we play USC, dude, in Notre Dame. I can't wait, man. Everything's lined up for Notre Dame to make the college football playoff this year. And I think this is so important for for Notre Dame Fighting Irish because it hasn't been since 1988 and Lou Holtz to win a national championship. Really, this year, everything's wide open. I mean, yeah, Texas is looking like the clear favorite, but, Georgia doesn't look so well. You got Ohio State, which Notre Dame, I hope we match up against them later on this year. Just a lot of teams right now that are just kind of like, a 50-50 team. That's why I say the rankings right now are still irrelevant in college football. There's a lot of football to be played. I can't wait. But shout out to my Notre Dame Fighting Irish. They are taking off. Let's go. It's the Cloud with Cam Show.